History remembers the monumental, the grand gestures of kings and generals. But what about the quiet revolutions? The acts of discovery, courage, and creation that ripple through time, often without credit? These are the stories of remarkable lives history largely forgot the scholars. Rebels and ordinary people whose work quietly shaped our world. She found fossils that rewrote Earth's deep history. In the early 1800s, along the coastal cliffs of Dorset, England, a self-taught paleontologist named Mary Anning was uncovering monsters. She was the first to discover and correctly identify the ichthyosaur, a marine reptile from a time before humanity. Later, she found a complete plesiosaur skeleton. These were not just bones. They were evidence of an ancient, vanished world, challenging biblical accounts of creation. But in the formal, male-dominated world of 19th century science, Mary Anning was rarely given credit. The scientists who published papers on her finds often failed to even mention her name. She sold her discoveries to survive, but her real legacy was written in the stone she so carefully chipped away a new, deeper understanding of life on Earth. In the 1700s, a woman in Qing China explained eclipses with math. Wang Zhenyi was an astronomer, mathematician, and poet who defied every convention of her time. In an era when women's education was discouraged, she taught herself trigonometry and calculus. She studied the stars from her family's garden, building models to demonstrate how lunar eclipses worked. She didn't just understand these complex phenomena. She was passionate about making them accessible, writing articles that simplified celestial mechanics for a wider audience. Wang Zhenyi also argued fiercely for the equal intellectual capacity of men and women, leaving behind not just scientific works, but a powerful challenge to the social order. She chose combat over marriage. Kutulun, a great-great-granddaughter of Genghis Khan, was a Mongol noblewoman famous for her extraordinary strength and skill on the battlefield. In the 13th century, she fought alongside her father in military campaigns, earning a reputation as an undefeated wrestler. Legend says she declared she would only marry a man who could defeat her in a wrestling match, and if he lost, he would owe her 100 horses. She reportedly amassed 10,000 horses and never married the man of her family's choosing. More than just a legend, Kutulun's story reflects the real authority and martial roles that some women held on the vast, unforgiving steppe. He described blood circulation centuries too early. Long before European physicians understood how blood moved through the body, a 13th century doctor in Cairo named Ibn al-Nafis made a groundbreaking discovery. By dissecting animals and studying medical texts, he correctly described the pulmonary circulation, the process of blood flowing from the heart to the lungs to receive oxygen and then back to the heart. This directly contradicted the teachings of Galen, the ancient Greek physician whose ideas had dominated medicine for 1,000 years. Ibn al-Nafis's work was revolutionary, but his manuscripts lay forgotten for centuries, and his insights were independently rediscovered in Europe much later. A medieval medical author focused on women. In the 11th or 12th century, from the influential medical school of Salerno, Italy, a collection of texts emerged that would change women's healthcare. Known as the Trotula, these writings offered practical advice on everything from childbirth to cosmetics, treating women's health with a seriousness that was rare for the time. For centuries, the work was attributed to a female physician named Trotula, though modern scholars debate whether she was a single author or a name associated with a group of practitioners. Regardless, the Trotula's influence was immense, circulating across medieval Europe and providing a foundational text for a field of medicine that had long been ignored. She rode farther than Paul Revere. On the night of April 26, 1777, a 16-year-old girl named Sybil Luddington climbed onto her horse and rode through the rain-soaked darkness of Putnam County, New York. Her mission was urgent: to warn the local militia that British troops were burning the nearby town of Danbury. She rode nearly 40 miles, more than twice the distance of Paul Revere's more famous ride, knocking on doors and shouting the alarm. By dawn, hundreds of volunteer soldiers were ready to march. Sybil's ride was a local legend for generations, a testament to the quiet, often unrecorded acts of bravery that fueled the American Revolution. A female warrior entered Japanese legend. The Tale of the Hike, a 12th century epic, describes a fearsome samurai warrior named Tomo Gozen. She was an Onabugeisha, a woman of the warrior class trained in martial arts. The text portrays her as a warrior worth 1,000, a master of the sword and the bow, who rode into battle alongside her commander with unmatched courage. While historians debate the precise historical reality of Tmogozin, her story became a powerful symbol. It illustrates the martial roles that women could and did play in feudal Japan, a legacy that blends historical possibility with heroic tradition. She built freedom in the mountains. In the rugged, remote Blue Mountains of 18th-century Jamaica, a leader known as Queen Nanny forged a community of resistance. An escaped enslaved African of the Ashanti people, she became the spiritual and military leader of the Windward Maroons. These were communities of formerly enslaved people who created their own free societies. Queen Nanny was a brilliant strategist, using guerrilla warfare and her deep knowledge of the terrain to outwit the British colonial forces for years. Her leadership was so effective that the British were eventually forced to sign a treaty granting her community land and autonomy, securing a legacy of freedom won through resilience and rebellion. She translated physics for Europe. Emily du Châtelet was a brilliant mathematician and physicist in the Age of Enlightenment, a time when the world of science was almost exclusively male. She saw the genius in Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica, a work so dense and complex that few could fully grasp it. Du Châtelet dedicated years to translating it into French, but she did more than just translate. She added her own extensive commentary, clarifying Newton's ideas and integrating them with other contemporary theories. Her work made Newton's physics accessible to a broader European audience and remains the standard French translation to this day. She earned a living by flying. In the early 1800s, when aviation was a dangerous and spectacular experiment, Sophie Blanchard became the first professional female balloonist. After her husband's death, she took to the skies to support herself, becoming famous across Europe for her daring night flights. She would launch fireworks from her balloon and perform breathtaking ascents, captivating crowds that included Napoleon Bonaparte, who appointed her aeronaut of the official festivals. Her career was a spectacle of courage, but it was also a business, a way for a woman to earn a living in a profession that didn't yet exist. She escaped slavery by becoming someone else. In 1848, Ellen Craft and her husband, William, planned a daring escape from bondage in Georgia. Because Ellen was very light-skinned, she disguised herself as a wealthy, disabled white man, with William playing the role of her loyal slave. They traveled north by train and steamboat in plain sight, a 4-day journey fraught with constant peril. Ellen pretended to be deaf and had her arm in a sling to avoid speaking or signing documents. Their escape was a brilliant act of performance, a direct challenge to the absurd racial and social hierarchies that underpinned the institution of American slavery. A military doctor lived a double life. For over 40 years, Dr. James Barry served as a highly respected and successful surgeon in the British Army, rising to the rank of Inspector General of Hospitals. Barry was known for a fiery temper and a passionate commitment to improving sanitation and patient care. But it was only after Barry's death in 1865 that a secret was revealed. The celebrated doctor had been assigned female at birth. In an era where women were barred from medicine and military service, Barry had lived as a man to pursue a profession, leaving behind a legacy that continues to challenge our understanding of gender, identity, and ambition. One of the West's most effective marshals was born into slavery. Bass Reeves became one of the first black U.S. deputy marshals west of the Mississippi River. Appointed in 1875, he was tasked with policing the vast and dangerous Indian Territory, an area covering 75,000 square miles. For over 3 decades, Reeves was a legendary figure of law and order. He was a master of disguise, an expert marksman, and was known for his unshakable integrity. It's estimated that he arrested over 3,000 people during his career, becoming one of the most successful and feared lawmen of the American frontier. She stayed on air when others fled. When the Gestapo dismantled the British spy networks in Paris in 1943, most radio operators were ordered to leave. But one, Noor Inayat Khan, refused. A quiet Sufi pacifist of Indian-American descent, she was an unlikely spy. Yet for months, she remained the sole link between the French resistance in Paris and London, constantly moving her transmitter, dodging capture, and sending vital intelligence. She was eventually betrayed and captured, but even under interrogation, she revealed nothing. Her last word before her execution at Dachau was reportedly liberté. She helped soldiers when institutions wouldn't. During the Crimean War in the 1850s, a Jamaican-born nurse named Mary Seacole traveled to the front lines. Having been rejected by the British War Office, she went on her own, funding her journey herself. Near the battlefield, she established the British Hotel, a place that was part store, part clinic, and part refuge for sick and wounded soldiers. She combined her knowledge of traditional Jamaican medicine with European practices, nursing soldiers back to health with a kindness that earned her the loving nickname Mother Seacole. She was an entrepreneur of compassion, working outside official channels to provide care where it was needed most. He denounced slavery when few dared. In the 1730s, Benjamin Lay, a Quaker living in Pennsylvania, engaged in acts of radical protest against slavery that shocked his contemporaries. He was a dwarf, and he used his physical difference to command attention for his abolitionist message. In one famous incident, he entered a Quaker meeting with a hollowed-out book containing a bladder of red pokeberry juice. Railing against the hypocrisy of slave-owning Quakers, he plunged a sword into the book, splattering the blood on those nearby. His dramatic, uncompromising stance made him an outcast, but his relentless agitation helped push the Quaker community toward becoming one of the first religious groups to officially denounce slavery. She made narrative film before Hollywood existed. At the turn of the 20th century, when cinema was just a novelty, Alice Guy Blackie was one of the first people to see its potential for storytelling. As a secretary at the Gaumont Film Company in France, she asked for permission to make her own films. Over the next 2 decades, she would direct, produce, or oversee more than 1,000 films, pioneering the use of narrative plots, color, and synchronized sound. She later opened her own studio in the United States. Yet for decades, film histories largely erased her contributions, attributing her work to male colleagues or ignoring her completely. A map stopped an epidemic. In 1854, a terrifying cholera outbreak swept through the Soho district of London. At the time, most believed the disease spread through bad air. But a physician named John Snow had a different theory. He began to talk to residents, meticulously plotting each death on a map of the neighborhood. A clear pattern emerged. The cases were clustered around a single public water pump on Broad Street. Snow convinced local officials to remove the pump's handle, and the outbreak quickly subsided. His work was a landmark moment, a foundational event in the science of epidemiology, proving that careful observation and data could save lives. Her poems recorded a collapsing world. Li Qingzhao, a poet of the Song dynasty in 12th century China, is celebrated as one of the masters of the Sai form of lyric poetry. In her early work, she wrote of the joys of her life as a scholar and art collector with her husband. But when Jurchen invaders conquered northern China, her life was thrown into chaos. She became a refugee, and her poetry transformed, capturing the profound grief of personal loss and the trauma of a world falling apart. Her later works are filled with a deep, sorrowful beauty, a powerful and personal record of exile that has resonated with readers for centuries. History is built by the overlooked. Their names may not be etched on monuments, but their stories form the bedrock of our world. Across cultures and centuries, individuals with limited power, a fossil hunter, a spy, a doctor, a poet pushed against the boundaries of their time. They are remembered in fragments, in a scientific paper, a forgotten film, a map, or a legend. These are not just footnotes to the grand narrative. They are the narrative itself, a reminder that the most profound changes often begin with a single, remarkable life. Small lives often make big history. If one of these stories surprised you, say which in the comments, and we'll add sources or a full deep dive on the most requested name. Subscribe for more human micro-histories, and thanks for honoring the quiet makers of our past.